And even just a few months ago, I wanted to quit, and then I called up my family, my friends, and I was like, oh, I'm not sure about this. Like, I'm not getting along with this person.
There's that risk that AI just explodes so quickly that you've got 100% of nothing.
People say, build it and they will come. It's just a complete myth. Even if you build a really, really good product, you need to understand marketing and how to distribute the product. It's very much a mental thing to do with more of like how you see yourself, like your identity in a way. And if you think it's cringe, like it is cringe, yeah, just lean into it. It's not going to show results straight away, but you just got to power through it, and then after a while it will show results.
Today I'm joined by Ikum Kandola, co-founder of TheAx.ai. We'll dig into how a 2-week consulting pilot turned into an AI startup, the difference between building in public and actually finding customers in your niche, Ikum's philosophy on fundraising, staying lean, and bringing in capital when it's really necessary, plus what nearly pushed him to quit, co-founder conflicts, and what ultimately ended up making his team stronger. It's a candid chat about finding product market fit, founder dynamics, and learning to lean into the cringe of founder-led marketing. Enjoy the show. Before we jump in, I just wanted to say thank you so much for listening. I genuinely believe in creating a world with more founders and sincerely believe that the tips and lessons that the founders are sharing with you will help you to either start or grow your own business, whatever stage you're at. That said, I'm effectively treating this as a startup. I'm trying to grow this podcast. And the free thing that you can do to help me today, if you found anything valuable, is to subscribe, follow this podcast. I've always found it really cringy when other creators say this, but now that I'm in a position, I totally get it. It would mean the world. Thank you. Welcome to the More Founders Show with me, Dave Berner. Today I'm joined by Ikum Kandola, you've already lived a string of, a couple of startup lives, right? So your first venture, Teachify, while you were still at uni, and at the same time as juggling working at PwC, and now you're tackling the consulting world with TheAx.ai. My understanding of it is you are trying to give the smaller guys essentially the same opportunities that the big four have, but powered by, say, AI instead of armies of consultants. Am I roughly in the ballpark?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, so we're trying to help the smaller SME consultancies compete with larger firms such as the big four.
Yeah, awesome. I'd love to hear a bit more about TheAx in your words.
Yeah, sure. So I can just give you like an overview of what we do. So basically we're an AI-powered consulting platform, and using our platform, consultancies can also productize their knowledge and productize their entire consultancy. And what this basically enables them to do is charge based on outcome instead of charging based on time-based services. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we're about a year in now. We've raised about 250K. That was quite a while ago now, maybe about 9 months ago.
Yep.
And
is that pounds or dollars?
Sorry, yeah, that was in pounds, 250 pounds.
So what's that, like 500K USD? I'm not sure what the conversion. It seems like all VCs always want to speak in USD. So
yeah, I reckon maybe about 350K dollars, something like that. And then,
yeah, congrats.
Thank you so much. And shortly, in about a month or so, we'll be raising again, and we're going to be going for about 800K pounds, £1 million. But we're about to kick it off, so we'll see what the market's saying at the moment.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, we'll touch on the kind of investment process in a bit. I'd love to dig into a bit about how you met your co-founder, because there's 4 co-founders at TheAx, I think you told me, and how you met them and how you were confident that they were the right team to sort of go on this journey with.
Yeah, it was definitely a big risk. So initially I started my other startup, Teachify, and I've been working on that for about a year and a half or so. And I just felt like it wasn't really getting the traction that I was looking for. I found a lot of people said, go out, speak to a lot of people, go out, try and sell. And then from there, you learn from the market a lot more than just a theory. And I found that just from the actual experience, there were just so many barriers to entry in the education market within the UK. There wasn't the right funds. There was a lot of red tape, and just the attitude towards AI from teachers and head teachers was really negative at the time.
What was the kind of main idea behind Teachify?
Yeah, so Teachify was a platform for secondary school teachers to accelerate their lesson planning. and just build like lesson resources, all these documents. And uniquely, what we did was we used the UK curriculum as well. So the AI wasn't just straight from the LLM. It had a system in place to get the relevant data from the curriculum. So it was much more accurate and much more tailored resources.
So you've always been sort of quite deep, like early on, I guess, into the AI and sort of seeing the potential of it.
Yeah, definitely. I think before I was just mainly interested in business, to be honest. And then even the reason I picked my computer science degree was because I was interested in business. And first I was going on the cybersecurity route, and it wasn't until ChatGPT came out that I was really my eyes were open to AI and LLMs. And then it only took me maybe a month or so until I thought of all the different use cases of AI and LLMs, and then that's when I launched Teachify.
Got it. What was it that sort of sparked the interest in the education space?
So at the time, was working at school. It was called Lizelle School in Birmingham, and I was teaching computer science as well. So it was just a placement module while I was at university. And when I was there, I just felt the teachers were really not making the most of technology at all.
Right.
There's a lot of manual processes, and um, I I've just felt with ChatGPT there's so many things that they could be doing that they were just not aware of, and it was very, very simple to use. So I actually did a workshop in the school to educate all the teachers about ChatGPT, and then from working with a few of them, I kind of understood their use cases better. And then there was another similar app helping with lesson planning. I tried it out, but it was based in America, so the results were not tailored to the UK. So I spoke to the head teacher and I said, well, he actually said to me that it would be good if there was one for the UK, and I thought that would be good and it'll be very easy to make. So why don't I just make it and then see what happens?
Yeah, awesome. I imagine like as a teacher, you would be quite scared at the moment. Like I'd be petrified of standing up in front of a class of students and telling them everything, and they'd be like, "No, sir," pulling out their phone and just, they've searched it on ChatGPT and kind of contradicting the questions that you're given. So like it makes sense that you would need to be armed with these sort of tools as a teacher, I think. Um, so you're a solo founder at this point?
I made the initial app solo, but very quickly I wanted to bring on someone else on board. So I had my co-founder Frank Crossley, who I went to university with, and also we were at PwC together as well, because our university and PwC were one scheme together.
Ah, I
Um,
see. Yep.
so so I brought him on board, and specifically because we both did computer science, we could both code on the application, but I wanted to move away a bit from the coding and work more on the business side, on the marketing, on the positioning, and just learn that entire field, which was all new to me. So I brought him on board, and then that enabled me to spend more time speaking to the teachers. And yeah, pretty quickly I realized like I wasn't as good as I was at programming.
It's definitely this black box is an area that I'm sort of starting to delve into now and kind of understanding a bit more about that founder-led marketing. And yeah, the deeper you get into it and the more layers there are to everything, it still feels like witchcraft to me. I'm not sure how long it'll take to actually master it. So you've moved on from that because there was effectively too much red tape, and it sounds like the education system just wasn't really quite ready for the technology at that point in time. I mean, it seems obvious that it will in time get there. And you then, having a background kind of in consultancy, I suppose that was a logical step for you to apply those learnings to the consultancy space. And then you doubled the co-founding team from 2 to 4.
Yeah.
Was there
Yeah.
any learnings from Teachify that then kind of went on to determine how you would structure TheAx founding team?
Oh, massively. Huge learnings. I think just on the founding team, I think actually two was a good number for the founding team. Now we're on 4. I think that's good as well, but any more than that, I think is too much, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
At one point, we actually have 5 co-founders,
Wow.
and one of them is no longer with us. So I think it was just too many people, too many clashes of heads at the start.
So what's the sort of split between the four of you? Are you still, have you gone back to coding, or you're now still kind of digging into the marketing side?
I think with us, like as an early stage startup, like our roles are constantly changing, and we'll have to muck in everywhere. I have quite a unique role because I've got the experience in programming and the other side of marketing business, which no one else in the team has. So one of our founders, Frank Crossley, he's mainly working on the product, engineering, that side of things, and then CEO Robert Streeter, he's more involved on the business side, but he does input into the product. But it's quite different because he will just give requirements, but somebody still needs to um, execute those into the application. And then our fourth founder, Ian Herring, he's predominantly based on sales, so he doesn't touch the app at all. And it's only really me that's doing a bit of both at the
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah, that's cool. So it sounds like you've got a pretty kind of even spread of skill sets across the board. And I mean, you've got some veteran consultants in there as well, and then you're kind of younger technologists, which probably brings quite a good dynamic to the party.
Yeah. So do you want me to? I can tell you as well how we met and how
Yeah, I'd
we
love to. Yeah.
the business. I skipped over that a little bit earlier. So basically with Teachify, I was very I was just very interested in learning more about startups because I was very new to the scene. So I used to network a lot. I used to be part of an incubator scheme as well with the University of Birmingham, and then through that there was a pitching competition. So I pitched a business. I think I won a pitching competition, but that this particular one I lost. But there was still interest from an angel investor who is there.
And this was pitching the axe, or the premise that was to become the
This was
axe.
actually pitching to Teachify.
Oh, it's yeah.
Yeah, so it was just before TheAx formed, and then yeah, so I met an angel investor. He was somewhat interested in the business, but I at this point I was doubting whether I even wanted investment because of the learning from pitching to the market. So I told him about this, and he actually introduced me to much older gentlemen who worked in consulting, and they wanted some AI for their business. So Frank and I, we needed a cash flow for our business,
Mhm.
so we did like a pilot with them and made them a little 2 week project for AI and consulting, and it was specifically to turn their consultancy into like uh, AI based consultancy. Basically, it's quite complex, so I won't get too much into it.
Okay.
Um,
So that effectively it started off though solving a problem that these guys had in the consultancy space. I assume that they were able to effectively kind of upload their knowledge somehow into a platform that you provided, like the frameworks, things that they'd evolved over time, and then that would create some automated tools or agents that would enable them to kind of leverage that to serve more clients without needing to hire more staff.
yeah, that's part of it. But I think on top of that, once they have the framework in the system, they can also create this like questionnaire that will go to the client, and then in that way, the client can kind of interact with AI directly, and and then the AI can extract the information that it needs from the client before it goes back to the
So
consultant.
even from like a research perspective, they can effectively interact with AI instead of filling out a bunch of documents.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not just a ChatGPT tool. It's something that you actually have and you can send to a client. So it actually goes a bit beyond that.
So this 2 week project, this effectively formed the framework of your MVP. Is it fair to call it an MVP at that stage?
Somewhat. So what we did for them, we was not the startup like TheAx at all. Like what TheAx is a way for other consultancies to to enable this. So it's like we did it for them in a manual way, but then
Mhm.
we made a platform so that any consultancy can do it.
Yeah.
It it
So
was
you sort of
like
proved the problem statement that it would work for one, and then figured out how you could productize it.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah.
that's smart.
Thank you. Thank you. So after that, then they really liked it, and then they wanted to start a company together, and I was interested as well. And then we just said yes, and then we just jumped on board and got started.
Was there much of a shift between, or what was the lift, I suppose, from something that was manually put together and tailored specifically to a single consultancy to a platform play which is enabling anybody to use it? Did you have to consider modeling from like a data perspective, like the data modeling of it from day one, or was it almost like, okay, we've got the concept and we're just going to start from scratch?
Yeah, so it's a difficult one because when we did it for one consultancy, we have all of their knowledge that they're going to put into the system, all of the files, so we can tailor everything around that, and we can when we create the technology and the technology extracts the relevant information from the system, like there's a big risk that will have some kind of overfitting, so that when we create the platform, it won't work in the same way for other consultancies. So even though like I was very much like an expert in this field from my research at PwC, I thought the best strategy for us was just to keep everything super high level and not go technical at all, and just let AI do as much of the heavy lifting as possible. Um, this is because there's just so many LLMs, different models coming out from different providers all the time. We were expecting the industry to really improve in the last year or so, which has 100% completely happened. Um, so all of the work that we could have done in prompt engineering or RAG as well would probably have been a bit of a waste of time, because a few months later, like something else will just come out which can just do it instantly for us rather than spending our development time.
Yeah, I mean that's a great foresight to be able to see kind of where it's heading and understand that where it's worth investing your effort. So yeah, you must be pretty pleased with yourself in terms of guessing where the puck was going. Is it Wayne Gretzky? It's like the great hockey players don't go to where the puck is, they go to where it's going. And it sounds like that's effectively what you did there, which is super smart. I think a lot of people didn't see it going quite as fast and exponentially in the way that it has. So it's awesome foresight. Was there anything? So you cut out a few features, I guess, then because it was the first version was bespoke, and you decided to go more high level. Was there anything else that you decided to include or cut from the MVP of the platform play? Was there anything that kind of surprised you in putting that together?
So you mean once we moved away from helping the two consultants into creating a platform for other consultancies to use? To be honest, we just teared it all down and just started again. Like we didn't really take anything. The version that we created, we made in Python. Even we used a library. I can't remember what it's called, but we made the actual app in about an hour, and then it was most of the time was just on the technical AI side of things that took more time. But when we created the actual platform, we built it in Next.js, and that obviously couldn't be done in an hour. That's taken months of work, and we even got a specialist developer on board to help us with that as well.
So the specialist developer, this was your in-house first hire, or like a contractor?
It was a contractor to begin with, because we weren't sure. We were going for fundraising. We weren't sure what would come of it, and it was actually somebody who I went to school with. So we thought we'd try it out, see how it goes, and then the contractor was just the best way forward for us. And then he's actually no longer with us at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So the decision to go on to move to use Next.js for that, was that predicated on this engineer's experience or something that you guys had used before?
yeah, so initially it's just learning from Teachify really. First I built Teachify using Django,
Mm-hmm.
and then yeah, I found I got more into the community of app development. I joined like Building Public, and then I had a few free friends at uni who were doing similar things as well, and then everyone was telling me use Next.js. So I just switched from Django to Next.js, and I found there was like a lot more support with Next.js, and it hasn't been like, I'm very pleased with the decision, 100%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, awesome. Has there been any pain points along that road? I know, I mean, I suppose it's maybe a fairly new product, but I know there have been a few major sort of framework updates over the last few years that have definitely caused pain for some Next.js products, like some of the major ones from 13 to 14 and 14 to 15. But I suppose it depends when you kind of got into that.
Yeah, I mean, those particular updates didn't affect us hugely, but we work a lot with the whole Vercel ecosystem. So we have had some issues, like we use Vercel AI SDK, and a few times when that's been updated, it's actually just completely broken our AI agent.
Assuming that you have customers at this point,
Yeah,
um, how do you handle like when I suppose something like that happens and then it breaks your AI agents? Will that have a knock-on effect to your customers? And if so, how do you kind of manage that? It's always a stressful time.
it's very stressful. It's something that's evolved like every month, to be honest. So at the start, we didn't have anyone using the platform, so we just let the team know. Now we're at the opposite end where, we've got about 15 different companies using our products, so we have a whole system in place. But we first of all let everyone know as soon as we can, so we do that via email, and then we just implement a fix. And as soon as we've done the fix, again, we'll email people out. But we haven't had a fix. We haven't had anything that's been so serious yet that we've had to um like take the app down
Yeah,
or
that's great.
have any big things yet. And again, that comes into using the Vercel ecosystem. So all our deployments on Vercel, there's a lot of checks in place before they get deployed. So if something is not up to scratch, firstly, it won't deploy. And then secondly, it's very easy to roll back to the last deployment as well. And then the third point as well, just on that, is that every time we do deploy, it doesn't take down the systems. There's like zero downtime. And a lot of clients are actually quite surprised by that.
Yeah, I suppose especially in that space, they're probably used to maybe more legacy systems that do have, yeah, we're going down for maintenance while we update to the latest version. But that's definitely one of the nice things when you can just be continuously deploying and releasing new features daily in theory, or even more often. So you said you're up to 15 customers now. Um, how did you go about landing your very first customer? Or was your first customer the one that you built for? Or I assume if you built them a bespoke one, they'd probably still be using the bespoke one.
Yeah, I'll get into it. So I got a lot of learnings from Teachify again. Like our biggest issue there was actually getting clients rather than anything technical. So when I started TheAx from the start, we made sure not to make that mistake again. So even while we were building, we tried to find ways of including people. So we launched a pilot program for 2 months, and we launched a beta program for 2 months. So while Frank and I were doing a lot of technical work, and the other co-founders were able to just go out and try and connect with as many people as possible and get them onto the platform so we could speak to them. And then even though the first version of the platform were honestly like unusable, completely terrible, at least we brought people along on the journey with us. We had about 15 to 20 people on the pilot and also on the beta program. So that was altogether, it was about 30 different people because there was also some overlap as well. And then one of those people became our first customer. They were just really impressed with the
Awesome.
idea of the business. And then also like the more feedback they gave us, the more we were able to build a system like cater to their needs. So it turned out to be really, really useful to them. They're also in the tech industry in cybersecurity. And I feel that actually made a big difference as well because every time I explained something to them, they just got it straight away. They just knew how to use the app and they were very, very reliable as well.
That's cool. So the initial list of kind of getting together those 20 to 30 pilot customers, how did you go about getting that list together? Because even that can be a massive hurdle, I think, for a lot of early stage founders, like finding 20 people that are even willing to try your product.
100%. That is really hard. That is super hard. And that's the reason why I specifically chose founders who were like based in the industry that I'm going in. I chose and my co-founder as well. Like they're considerably older. They're in their 60s and they've had a long career in consulting. So I knew they would have a massive network of consultants. Um, so I left a lot of it to them, to be honest, to find the relevant people. And most of them were just people that they already knew.
So it's leveraging existing networks to get people to come and try it. Did you get much pushback from, I guess, from that demographic in terms of bringing in an AI play into that space? Was there much hesitance or pushback there, or were people generally eager to try something new?
It's been much more positive than the education sector, like much, much more positive. And that's all I can compare it to, really. I would say like the main difference is in a school, there's no there's no money motivation. Whereas in a business, if you can bring in AI and you make them more money, then they'll be open to it. There's actually like an incentive for them to do it rather than just, okay, the teacher can save a bit of time, but the head teacher's not really caring about that if everything's going fine
Yeah,
anyway.
for sure. That teacher isn't actually gaining any more. Like they're not getting paid more for the extra hours that they've got. In fact,
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
There's
it's an
no way that
interesting.
yeah, there's no way the school can make the money back in any way really,
Yeah,
and save fire some teachers.
yeah, which you still need, I guess, like a critical. Well, there's probably a certain number of teachers you would need per class for it to not. Yeah, there's probably not too much to do in the way of cost savings there. Maybe I guess they could do less through the holidays or something like that. I'm sure they must do some lesson planning and that kind of things, but it's not as tangible, I suppose, as when you can actually see what it's going to do to your bottom line, like it would with a business.
Yeah.
So yeah, sounds like it was a smart pivot anyway. Was there any features kind of in that early MVP? I know you were saying that it was ultimately unusable, as most good MVPs are. Were there any features in there that you thought, oh, this is going to be kind of a killer feature, but then just didn't gain the traction that you thought it might?
Yeah, definitely. So again, there's like a bit of clash of heads as well sometimes. So the CEO, who's like very much consultancy specialist, whereas I was more of like I was doing more of the tech side. So I was as a tech person, it was always in my interest to make the app very lean and just to do like as little as possible to make it work and like make it efficient, and not bloated with loads of features. But he wanted to do so many different things that could help consultants. So one feature that we had, which we still have, but we haven't developed it as much, is the knowledge book feature. So this just like think of like ChatGPT projects, but we did it like before that even came out, where people can just upload their files and talk to them. But I wasn't really I wasn't really impressed by this feature because I think it's for a developer, like they can make that in a day, and so many apps that have it. It's not really a USP for our app, and there were a few times when we went to pitch the product to people, and then we were kind of leading with that as being a main feature. And I feel like the app was not, it was being taken away from consultancy into like just this AI data app, which
Yeah,
really had no USP. And then the people in the team didn't have like necessarily the same foresight or the level of experience in AI to see like, oh, this is actually very easy, and like lots of other people have done this.
yeah, I think that can definitely be a bit of a trap, along with the kind of AI, all the things, even if they don't necessarily need to be, especially with the cost of AI, it can actually often be probably more cost effective to find other ways of achieving similar things and then leveraging AI in the pieces where it's really going to make sense and make your product shine, rather than being another GPT wrapper, I guess. Which it sounds like you guys have nailed, which is cool. Did you've so you've got articles in kind of the AI journal and TechGround and a few spots like that. Do you think that played into being able to land some of those early customers sort of from a trust perspective?
I think so far we haven't seen the results from the PR just yet. The PR's been more over the last month, I would say, was we've been getting the customers over the past 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
I think the PR is kind of like, I feel like I'm building a wall. Like every week I'm putting down another brick of a new article from these different publications. I think eventually it will pay off. But again, like when as soon as the PR comes out, I think it'll take a bit of time for it to show up in SEO, to show up on Google and really make an impact, which we haven't seen just yet, but I'm sure we'll see very, very shortly.
Yeah. Yeah, you've been doing or you've been busy in that kind of founder led marketing space. And I think I found you on X initially. And I remember having a conversation. You were saying that X wasn't really, I guess, the space for you, and you found that there's been more success on LinkedIn. I'd love to dig into a bit of I guess the founder led marketing and what your thought process has been in that journey.
Yeah, I think going into the journey, I had a different point of view, but from experience of using different social medias, I think they all have their place in different areas. I think where our app is space for consultants. So they predominantly reside on LinkedIn. You know, when they try to get business, they go on LinkedIn. So the most active consultants will be on LinkedIn naturally. Um, I think like building a public space is really powerful, but ultimately you will be shown to other builders,
Yep.
which doesn't necessarily translate into leads. So it's still valuable, but not for generating leads, in my opinion.
Yeah. What were your biggest learnings from the building public community?
Oh, many things. I think for me, it's like the first time I put myself out there making a lot of videos. So I learned a lot about how I come across, just the way I speak and how people would perceive that. I think that's so important as well in sales and pitching and so many different things in business. But coming from a tech background, we were like a lot of people have this perception that it doesn't matter, like as long as you're doing good work, like no one really cares. They think like, oh, don't judge a book by its cover. But at the same time, like the first second that you see someone, they'll make a first impression on you, and that will have an impact on how you perceive them massively.
Yeah. And the opposite, right? I mean, if you don't have any presence, then that's kind of a presence in and of it. So, like the absence of presence is kind of makes its own statement in a different way as well, or leaves it open for people to generate their own opinions rather than you being able to stand there and make your own mark.
Yeah, exactly. And especially if your business is doing well, you might find that other people are talking about you, talking about your business, and it's coming out in PR. You want to be able to kind of control the dynamic as much as you can, and
Yeah.
not let people's perception of you control the dynamic.
Did you get any useful, I guess, learnings or feedback from a technical perspective about from the product side, from built for like by doing it in public, or was it mostly the kind of personal brand and confidence on camera?
So I did meet some people in the community, and like a lot of it was more like in the DMs and having calls with people outside of what you would see. I definitely did find meet a few really helpful people who taught me some things. In terms of like me posting, I found that it wasn't the technical stuff wasn't like as interesting. There wasn't like always a story there. It was kind of just like, oh, I just made this new feature for this consulting app, which has no relevance to people here because they don't do consulting.
Yeah,
Um,
it's not like you can ask them to jump in and test it, because unless they have coincidentally got this built up knowledge base that they're on frameworks that they're going to upload, then there's probably not a huge amount. I mean, possibly they could look at maybe some onboarding or the website and see whether they understand the messaging. But once you go sort of deeper than surface level, I suppose it is quite a specific market that you're targeting.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's something I've learned as well. The ICP is really important, and to be to perform well on social media, I think you need to be super targeted on who what you're posting and who you're actually targeting. You can't just blast it out for everyone.
Mm-hmm. Do you see, I guess, the personal brand that you've been building on? You said it's kind of more of a long tail, and you're not seeing the returns yet. And I agree with you. I think it definitely is one of those that maybe 3-6 months down the line, and you've, as you say, another brick that's kind of building up this wall. Do you see at that point that it will be a customer acquisition channel, or more of a, as you say, kind of like a defense so that people will understand more about you, or both?
Yeah, good question. It could be many things really. I'm still exploring it. I think what I would like is for it to be more about customer acquisition. I think it's just because it has the highest ROI for me at the moment in our business. Just because customer acquisition is like probably the biggest hurdle as a founder, in my opinion.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, I think on a personal level, I think it helps massively as well. I think every people talk about it a lot, like 90% of startups don't work out. So I'm thinking even if, I don't know what the future will hold, but I know from Teachify, for example, no one really looks at the app anymore. But anyone that Googles my name, they can still see like some PR that I've got from Teachify of like winning awards.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, I found it when researching for this.
yeah, exactly that. So I think it just helps to build a timeline. Um, so not just for the business, but say even for myself in 10 years' time, people can look back and see like, oh, you haven't just started. It's like this. If I built another startup in the future, they're like, "Oh, this is not your first startup. Like you've been doing this for a while. Like we trust you. You can get investment and this type of thing."
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. What advice would you give for um, a founder who doesn't naturally kind of love self promotion, but kind of wants to lean a little bit more into founder led marketing and storytelling, or feels that they should, but maybe doesn't really know where to get started?
It's quite hard. I at first like I was in the same boat. Like I really didn't think it was good to post on social media. I thought it was a bit cringe to post on LinkedIn. Um, I think if I could tell you something and you could, if I could tell you in one sentence to do something, then it would be easy. But it really just comes from experience. For me, I was on an incubator scheme, and then they told me like you need to be posting on LinkedIn. You need to be posting on LinkedIn. And because I was with a cohort of people, and I made friends, and then other people started to do it, then suddenly like my circle of people were doing it, and then I thought, oh, like I may as well just do it. Like this is a bit more normalized. It doesn't feel as cringe. I think it's very much a mental thing to do with more of like how you see yourself, like your identity in a way. And if you think it's cringe, like it is cringe. If you if,
Just
if you
lean
can change
into
your
it.
mind, yeah, just lean into it. And again, it's not going to show results straight away, um, but you just got to power through it, and then after a while, it will start show results. And when it shows results, people will look at you and say like, you were this person, you were this great person, you were the startup founder, you have a business and everything. Um, but it's just posting at the end of the day, like,
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely interesting that when you're, and I'm still very, very, very probably earlier than you on this, and this podcast is kind of part of that, part of those efforts. And people do look at you a little bit like you're crazy when you're doing this stuff, and you don't, you've got a handful of followers here and there, but then if once you're at the other end of it, then suddenly you're no longer this crazy person, and there's some kind of strange respect to be had there that you almost need to do the reps in the first place and push through the cringe, I imagine, to get to that spot. I think it was interesting what you were saying there about how being in that cohort of people who were sort of journeying on that same in that same direction as you kind of normalized it. And I think that probably is quite key as well. If you can even find one person that's trying to do the same things as you, then that probably goes a long way. I mean, obviously, the more of you there are kind of in that group, the better. But you do hear about it quite often that groups of people kind of all come up together, or these little WhatsApp groups with 3 or 4 people that are in it and pushing themselves all kind of in that same direction. And then you can lift each other up together and give each other feedback. I imagine that's probably would have helped quite a bit for you, right? When you were starting that out.
yeah, 100%. It made a big difference. Again, I think about it like going to the gym as well. Like when I play sports sometimes, like I do boxing, for example, and then I like never miss a boxing session. And when I go there, I train hard the whole time because it's a group of people, and then when there's people watching, like you do it well. But when I go to the gym by myself and I lift weights, then sometimes I feel like, oh, I can't be bothered to go today, or like I can't, like, there's not really any reason for me to push super hard. And again, I think it comes down to personal nature and your personality, but I'm like a very competitive person as well. So being in that cohort, being with other people and I'm seeing their success, I just want to compete with them and emulate what they're doing.
There's definitely a couple of bits there I'll touch on. I used to do the boxing when I was living in Sydney. Never got in the ring, but just like training. And the thing I loved about it was actually it was the only time I wasn't thinking about my starter. Because as soon as your brain wanders and you're thinking about something else, and you'll get punched in the face. So there's nothing quite like that to kind of focus your mind, I suppose. Um, so yeah, I think that's interesting. I wonder whether all founders should just take up some sort of contact sport to be able to separate them from that.
Definitely, definitely. If you have the same personality as me as well, like I have some ADHD, if you're like that, I think it helps so, so much. Create a routine and just have a bit of balance in your life as well.
Yeah, I think the routine is massive. Like I also gym every weekday. I take weekends off, but 6 a.m. every morning, rain or shine, just kind of get out there and feel like you've chalked up your one victory for the day before you've started.
Hmm.
I'm similar to you that if I am on my own, then I find it trickier. Like if I'm at 8 and I'm trying to get to 10 reps, then just letting the last two go can feel easier. I was listening to, I think it was Diary of a CEO with, who was it? Maybe Simon Sinek. Not sure. But someone was effectively saying that actually those micro decisions are the ones that you shouldn't need to rely on other people, and that's where I struggle the most for sure.
Hmm.
And that you like it's the little lies or the little let-offs that you tell yourself. If you've already done one slip, then you're more likely to do another one and another one and another one. Whereas you can kind of teach yourself to get into that mind state. If you do just push through those other two reps, then it will end up making you kind of have more resolve overall, which I definitely struggle with that, but it's something I'm trying to get better at. Um, there was another. I've been reading the Diary of a CEO's book recently, and there was I think it's like 33 laws of business or something, and one of them in there was around framing. So if you are questioning more even about going to the gym and saying I'm going to go to the gym on Monday, and you don't want to, if you frame it as a question, then you're more likely to do it. So if it's raining outside and you're like, will I go to the gym today? Then you're already processing it and you're therefore more likely to say, yes, I will go. And trying to shift into that mindset. That's just something I've been dabbling with at the minute to try and get better at that.
No, I think it's really important. Like I'm very interested in how you frame things. I think it makes such a big difference. Even before I started these businesses, I used to read a lot of like self-development books, and um, yeah, mindset is just so important, as you say.
Is there anything you're reading at the moment?
No, not the moment. So I was reading The Lean Startup, but I found recently I've read quite a few books, and I just find I just learn more actually working at the moment. Um, just because I'm just doing quite a few different things, like developing the app and then trying to use social media and stuff. I don't think I could read a book really to help me with social media that much. I think the best way to learn is like through a community, through looking at other people, and like the way that technology is moving so quick. Like there's not going to be the latest book on AI, the latest book on TikTok. That it's always going to be out of date as soon as it comes out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm a big believer in books, but at the moment I'm not reading them.
Yeah, I think it makes sense for sort of different disciplines, doesn't it? I think in the kind of business sense, there probably are always those fundamentals which will remain true. But then in something like marketing, it is so malleable and changing that yeah, it would be pretty tricky to have some. I guess the things that probably do retain true is that the consistency. I guess that's never going to go. That's probably a universal truth for marketing. Like you just need to be consistent with it. But outside of
Yeah.
that, with the platforms and things, as you say, it just evolves so quickly. It'd be pretty much impossible.
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of the books as well, they all say similar things, and a lot of it is like, as you say, like be consistent. So sometimes it's better just to be consistent rather than reading the book
Yeah,
about being
just do
consistent.
the reps and then check out the analytics, see what's performing, what's not, and do more of the stuff that is. That's kind of ultimately what it boils down to, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, exactly that. I think it's about like more execution and less theory as well when you
Yeah,
become a founder, when you start out becoming a founder.
yeah, and I think, I mean, yeah, that's kind of great advice, probably for somebody that's getting into that space now and is maybe worried about it. It's like just stop watching the YouTube videos, stop reading all the books, and actually just start putting some stuff out. And as you said, lean into the cringe and then figure out what lands and what doesn't, and just rip off the band-aid.
Yeah, exactly that. And sometimes when I do consume content as well, I have a rule where it's like if I see something good, then I'm not consuming any more content until I've like executed that thing. So I might I might be reading a book like Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. If I read the first chapter and it's told me like what the habit is, then the next thing I'm going to do is try to implement the habit. I'm not going to read the next chapter until I've done that. Otherwise, I find myself like I've read the whole book, but I haven't made any changes. I can't even remember what the first chapter was about, and then I'm going to read another book, and then I think I'm like improving, but I'm actually just absorb. I'm just reading all this knowledge, and it's not doing anything.
I'm definitely guilty of that. I'm pretty sure I read that book and then didn't stop at each habit, and I couldn't tell you what the seven are now. I'm definitely in that camp. Um, I try to write down the stuff that really stands out to me. I've got a little notebook, so if there's like one thing, I was thinking about maybe even just starting to post those as and when something just really sticks out. Because often, so it's the same message kind of repeated throughout the book. Anyway,
Yeah.
um, so I also wanted to touch on, you mentioned at the beginning you did the raise for about 350K USD, which is awesome. And then I'm assuming that kind of went towards probably hiring the first contractor that you got on to build out that initial MVP. Um, how are you financing the axe as of now?
Yeah, so there's actually a bit more complication to the race. So we actually have had two small raises already, even though we're only a year in. Um, so the first one, we didn't really hire anyone. It was just enough for me to kind of quit my job and us as founders to have a bit of runway to build the first product. Then with the second round of funding, we did expand a little bit and bring on another developer and a design team. Currently, right now, I think we're still living off that funding at the moment, and we have a little bit of income from sales as well. But at the moment, nothing massive. We're getting about 4K MRR uh, pounds, so maybe like 5K
Yep,
MRR dollars.
that's great. That's great that you're able to run it kind of so lean as well, which is awesome. What is your? I know you said you're possibly looking at doing another raise soon, but what's your general philosophy on kind of when to raise money versus either staying revenue funded or bootstrap?
Yeah, I don't think there's kind of one set rule to it. I think it's heavily depends on the market in general, to do with like fundraising market and the market that you're in and the startup market in general. I think if you're in a market which is, you think about like how slowly you'll go without funding. If you're going to take your time, take 5 years to build some AI app, it's probably not going to work out because the AI apps are popping up so quickly.
Mhm.
Um, industry's moving so fast. But if it was something else, like mainly like less tech related, so say if you wanted to start like some kind of boxing community, for example, then I think you don't need the funding because you can just go a lot slower and no one's really going to come in and like take your place in the market.
Yeah, so you're essentially kind of weighing up that trade and kind of speed where that injection of capital would allow you to move fast, which is what you're going to need kind of in this AI space versus, um, yeah, I guess just kind of hedging your bets. And then I suppose the other side of it is the control, where the bootstrapping side would allow you to keep the flexibility and obviously more of the business, but then there's that risk that AI just explodes so quickly that you've got 100% of nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And then someone else just comes in with another, and there's like 50 other apps doing the same thing. Like it's going to be very difficult for you.
What do you think your when those other apps do start to? I'm not too familiar with the competitive space or in that kind of consultancy AI space, but when those 50 do pop up, do you have a moat or a point of differentiation that to win?
Yeah, I think the main moat for us is on data. So what we're going to be doing is, so as consultancies use the platform more, the models or just the way we build the platform, the actual consulting advice will start to improve, and we'll kind of learn from their data. I think the way we'll probably do it from now is that each individual consultancy will have their own, say, model, which learns by itself. But we're also considering whether we want to have like one model which learns from all of the consulting that's done on the platform. But I think this is a bit of a stretch at the moment, and we might have some issues around data privacy as well.
Yeah, interesting. Are there any specific privacy issues that have come up so far?
It's more that people don't want their data being used to train a model
Oh,
that's
I
being
see what
used
you
by
mean.
other people.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I do usually opt out.
Exactly.
All of that.
It's very
So
sensitive as well.
yeah, yeah, I imagine it would be. Um, so with Teachify, and I could be wrong on this, but as I understand it, you built your own LLM for Teachify.
We didn't build a whole LLM, but what we did was we built technology on top. We basically built like a complex RAG system to go with that LLM, and then overall we call it like a model. We just kind of followed what other businesses were doing at the time, and it's a bit of a grey area. I think some, uh, yeah, it's not an LLM, but it is using an LLM, and overall it's still like some form of a model.
Gotcha. So when you then went on to do the axe, how did you decide, I guess, kind of between building versus leveraging sort of existing models?
I think we leveraged as much as we could from Teachify. I think I was really like the foundation of the app with TheAx, to be honest, especially around the technical AI things. Um, but everything else we built again using Next.js.
Yeah, awesome. And what's been the hardest kind of technical problem that you've had to solve so far? I mean, I don't know how deep you are in the code these days, so maybe.
There's nothing that's been massively difficult, to be honest. Especially with Cursor AI, I feel like things are just way easier than they used to be. Uh, and because we built Teachify as well so recently, we had technical problems with that, and we kind of overcome them and built it in a way that wasn't too difficult. I think it's more just a deepness that you can go with Next.js. It's just, it gets so complex. We want to build. Yeah, there is actually one thing. So we have the ability to create these like AI assessments or like AI interviews. We built one type for like one to one, and then we built one for groups as well. And then we also built like a templated version, so you could create a template and then reuse it for like lots of different companies very easily. Uh, and when we did these three things, we created them all separately in the app. But now we're at the stage where all of them are like very similar to set up and run in a similar way. So we should have put it just as one reusable component,
Yeah, I see.
three different ones. So that's causing us quite a lot of extra work at the moment.
What's your split at the minute between kind of getting your hands dirty in the code and doing the marketing and sales and this type of stuff as well?
So I mainly do the marketing side, to be honest. So today I did about 2 hours of development. I think per week I'd probably do at most like 10 hours of development. Um, I think it's just a bit of a misconception that people think like you need to do a lot of development at the start, but I think yes, you need to do development, but most of the work is on sales, to be honest. Like for if I give you this example of like, say somebody gave you like 1,000,000 pens, Like, would you rather have a million pens, or would you rather have a million orders for pens? Because if you had a million orders, like, it's very easy to fulfill the order with getting pens. Um, but having all the pens, like, then you have to sell a million pens is actually a massive amount of work. Like, most people don't have a clue what to
Yeah,
do.
yeah, for sure. I wouldn't know what to do with them. Build a wall of pens.
Yeah, exactly. You just put it on eBay or something and hope for the best.
So now, you said before, I'm sure I read it somewhere, that you'd kind of you'd emphasize structuring the knowledge to prevent hallucinations, which sounds really cool, and I don't really know too much about. So I'd love to know um, how you're kind of making the AI reliable in the consulting world.
Yeah, so let's say if you're using ChatGPT and you've got ChatGPT memories, for example, and the way it works is as you're talking to ChatGPT, it will find certain things that you said which are important, and it will store them in a set of notes. And then in future, when you ask a question, it will just do like a similarity search to find the most relevant data to pull that from. So obviously that works, but you're not really in control of which data is being pulled when you ask a question. Um, and that can be fine, but if you're a consulting company and you're literally selling the service to give advice, that is super, super important. So yeah, so what we've done is create ways to kind of organize the knowledge and into frameworks. And then this means, like, for example, if the AI is trying to give consulting on a certain point, it knows like where to look in the framework for that point.
Mhm.
So for example, if I'm doing like GDPR, um, if I'm a GDPR consultant, for example, I might create a framework for that, and there'll be different categories, and within each category, there'll be like specific data for that category. So one of them could be around, um, there's a rule that I need if I'm based in the EU, all the data, my databases need to be based in the EU as well. So if it was like using ChatGPT notes and you asked a question about that, you would have to go through all this data, and it would be very unreliable. But if you could somehow create a framework and have lots of different like categories, and then within those categories you have like different controls or whatever, and you have the data for just that control, then um, when the user gets interviewed, then um, it's just we've just created a system to be able to match up that information much more effectively, so the AI can pinpoint, oh, this is the exact information I need to give the advice, rather than having to like search around in a different way.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Um, and GBTR as well. I mean, I'm sure in all consultant spaces, but it's one of those that if you get it wrong, you can be in a world of pain. So there's just no real room for error, right? Are you across all different, like all verticals in terms of consultancy spaces? Could any type of consultancy business could use you?
So in theory, yes, but we find it hard to find the right terms for it. But we prefer consultancies which use specifically a maturity model, which is like a type of framework, and our system is built around this. But there are some consultants who are more like doing advisory work, and there's some who are doing more hands-on practical work. Again, like, our system is more for the advisory side of things. So some people who do recruitment, for example, they call themselves recruitment consultants,
Mm-hmm.
but they wouldn't really be appropriate for our app.
I see. What's the maturity model?
So yeah, the maturity model is just like the framework. It's just a way of um, organizing your IP with categories and levels. So you can just define like what a company will look at given category level, and that is your own IP, which you'll get from years and years of doing consulting. You know what good looks like, and that's something that you can control, and you have to get right in our system for then the AI to be able to use that and get that right when it does the consulting.
Yeah, I see. So then anyone that's kind of using that same sort of structure to their data it's gonna be pretty simple for them to transition to using the axe.
Yeah. And even the people that don't have the structure as well, we have a system for that where they can just upload files and just give a lot of information about what kind of consulting they do. And then we can create the maturity model for them. Then they just need to go through and just like tinker it a little bit to make sure that, we said this is 5 out of 5. if you think it's a 4 out of 5, then you just got to change it. But at least you have like a definition of something which you can work off.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's awesome. I just wanted to touch a little bit on, I guess, your kind of founder journey, just a few reflections and advice to kind of wrap up. So, what would you say the toughest moment in your founder journey has been so far, and how did you get through it?
Yeah, I think the toughest moments have been like founder clashes. Even just a few months ago, like I wanted to quit, and then I called up my family, my friends, and I was like, "Oh, I'm not sure about this. Like, I'm not getting along with this person or whatever." Um, but then, like after a couple of weeks, I just completely 180'd and everything went really well. A lot of it, a lot of these, a lot of the biggest problems I think are like relationship based with people in the team or whatever it may be, and then that can be difficult to navigate, like especially if you're from a tech background. So my advice would be, I don't I try to not just think of, don't just think like a developer. If you come from a development background, like you have to step back and like look at the big picture sometimes. So for me, like when I had a founder fallout, I didn't really know what to do. So I just spoke to a lot of my friends and stuff, and then um, people had different opinions, and then I realized like, oh, maybe it's not as clear cut as I thought. And then I also prepared the presentation as well to try to like break down my thoughts and like the problems in the company. And I did everything back by data rather than just giving my opinion, so no one could really argue with it. And then once I did this and I presented this presentation, like there's a really good positive response from it. And then I got the changes that I wanted, and people were on board with what I was saying. So it actually went from me like almost wanting to quit to me actually really believing in my other founders because they were open-minded to what I was saying, and actually made us like a lot stronger as a team afterwards.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think as well, like sometimes it can be quite, if you've got ideas in your head, you assume that everybody's on the same page, or there's a lot of assumptions, a lot of stuff that can kind of slip between the cracks. But I guess by getting it down into a presentation and having it all there, it kind of takes the emotion out of it a little bit, so that you can actually just look at the facts and kind of come to a common ground on that. And look, this is where we all want to get to. Um, so yeah, and it's great that that kind of was able to culminate in a resolution where nobody was upset and you could move forward in a stronger way as well, which is great. Um, what was the single biggest lesson that you carried from, I guess now as a second time founder? So from Teachify into TheAx, like outside of, I know, so you kind of leveraged a lot of the product, but any kind of founder learnings there?
Yeah, I've got lots, but I think the biggest one for me is that people say, build it and they'll come. It's just a complete myth. It's just going to be unfurther from the truth. Even if you build a really, really good product, you need to understand marketing and how to distribute the product. Even now is something I'm learning because initially, like we've done everything manually, like we've been cold calling people, emailing people, doing all these type of things. Um, but now I'm learning from building it in public community. Like there are other ways of doing it, like founder-led growth, founder-led sales for using social media, having self sign up on the platform, these type of things. So yeah, don't forget your marketing.
Awesome. That's great advice. All right, one closing question for you then. Quite a fan of listening to music to kind of get me into the zone. I'm putting together a bit of a playlist. So what would be kind of one song that would get you into the zone when you're working?
Good question. So I actually I just type in like ADHD beats and I listen to that. But I really like lo-fi music as well. There's one song called Hanging Lanterns, which I really like, a lo-fi song. So I will put that as number one.
Okay, awesome. I will check that out. Well, thank you so much for being a guest today, coming such a good sport and running through your story. So many amazing lessons for all the founders listening. And yeah, can't wait to see what's next for the Axe. Good luck with the next fundraising round. When is that due? Or when are you kind of looking to do that?
It's gonna be September and October time. Hopefully we'll close it by end of September, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, awesome. Coming up quick. All right. And if people want to find you, so there's TheAx.ai, and where else would you recommend that they reach out?
Yeah, best place right now is LinkedIn. So they can just Google my name, Ikum Kandola, or you can find me on Twitter as well, Ikum_building. I'm on there as well sometimes.
Lovely. All right. Cheers. Thanks so much, Ikum.
Thanks so much. See you later.
See ya. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, feel free to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can also visit our website at morefounders.show for all previous episodes and more information about the show. Thanks again. See you in the next one.